Hi, everyone. Welcome to Living Wisdom and Dharma World. Today, we're going to look at a topic that might intrigue many people. Who are you before birth, and what will you be after death? We will look at it with a Buddhist perspective, which is a universal truth that human beings may need to realize and practice. Let's start our exploration. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to inspire others on their path of discovery. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your reflections may spark meaningful conversations and mutual growth. Together, let's start our exploration. The great question that haunts us all. Have you ever stopped to wonder, who am I, really? Not just your name, your job, your roles in life, but beyond all that. If you weren't born yet, where were you? And when you die, where will you go? These are not just abstract philosophical questions. They are the deepest inquiries into the nature of our existence. Buddhism doesn't give a simple answer like, you were nothing before birth, or you will disappear after death. Instead, it invites us to go deeper, to look beyond the surface of things. The Buddha once said in the Diamond Sutra, "A past mind cannot be found, a present mind cannot be grasped, and a future mind cannot be attained." If even our thoughts and identities in this very moment are so elusive, how much more so our existence before birth and after death? The illusion of the self, a dream we cling to. In daily life, we hold tightly to this idea of me. I am this person. I like these things. I have this past. I will become that in the future. But have you ever caught yourself in a dream, completely convinced that you were that dream self, experiencing that dream world? And then, suddenly, you wake up. Where did that dream person go? The Buddha taught that our sense of self is like that dream, a formation of thoughts, habits, and memories that we take to be solid, but which is constantly changing. All conditioned things are impermanent, the Buddha said. They arise and pass away. Just as we do not grieve the loss of our dream self upon waking, should we hold so tightly to this temporary identity in this fleeting moment we call life? Before birth, were you ever separate? If we look deeply, we can see that we did not come from nowhere. The food your parents ate became your body. The air, the sunlight, the countless causes and conditions from the vast web of existence came together to form you. You were never separate. Before birth, you were water in the ocean, breath in the wind, warmth in the sun. And after birth, you simply took form, like a wave rising from the sea, distinct for a moment, yet never apart from the whole. The Zen master Wangbo once said, "Do not be mistaken. Before your parents were born, you have always been this one mind." This is not a statement about personal identity continuing forever. It's pointing to the fact that before you were you were already part of the great, boundless reality that has no beginning and no end. Death. Where do we go when the candle blows out? If we are not this fixed self, then what happens when we die? Where do we go? A simple analogy is a candle flame. If you light one candle from another, where did the first flame go? Did it move? Did it vanish? Or did it simply continue in a new way? In the Tibetan Book of the Dead, Guru Rinpoche teaches that after death, our consciousness continues in a dreamlike state, moving through the bardo, the transition between death and rebirth. But he also warns, recognize the clear light, O noble one. Your own true nature is shining before you. In other words, at the moment of death, we may finally glimpse the truth of who we have always been. For most of us, this transition is unconscious, and we are drawn by our past thoughts and actions into another life, just as a river continues flowing toward the sea. The Buddha described this process as dependent origination. One thing leads to another, and the cycle continues. With ignorance as condition, formations arise. With formations as condition, consciousness arises, and so on, shaping our next existence. Living with the great mystery. So, who were you before birth? Who will you be after death? Instead of answering this question in words, Buddhism invites us to sit in the mystery itself, to look deeply. The Zen master Bankei said, "You were the unborn before your parents were born, and you are still the unborn, even now." This means that beyond all appearances, beyond birth and death, there is something in you, call it awareness, mind, Buddha nature, that has never been born and never dies. The key is not to hold on to this as another idea, but to experience it directly. Right now, before another thought arises, before you name yourself, before you grab onto another identity, who are you? If you sit still and truly look, you may find that the answer is not something to be spoken, but something to be lived moment by moment in this very life. And perhaps, in discovering that, we stop fearing death, because in truth, we were never separate to begin with. How to practice this understanding in daily life. Understanding these deep truths intellectually is not enough. We must practice them in our daily lives. The Buddha taught that realization comes through direct experience, not just conceptual knowledge. So, how do we bring this awareness into our everyday life? 1. Meditate on the nature of awareness. Every day, take time to sit in silence. Observe your thoughts and emotions arise and pass like clouds in the sky. Ask yourself, before this thought appeared, where was it? After it disappears, where does it go? This simple reflection brings you closer to seeing that thoughts, identity, and self are not as solid as they seem. Try practicing silent sitting meditation, shikantaza, or self-inquiry by asking, who am I before this thought? Or, who is experiencing this moment? 2. Recognize the impermanence in everything. Throughout the day, notice the constant change around you. The morning sun moves to afternoon, then evening. Your emotions shift. Your body ages. This is the reality of impermanence. When you see impermanence clearly, you stop clinging so tightly to identity and possessions, realizing they are passing waves in the ocean of existence. The Buddha said, all compounded things are impermanent. Work out your own salvation with diligence. The more we live with this truth, the less we suffer. 3. Let go of fixed identities. Every time you catch yourself saying, I am this kind of person, or I can never change, pause. Who is this I you are speaking of? Is it not just a collection of shifting experiences? When we stop clinging to fixed labels, we become freer, more open, and closer to seeing the formless reality behind the self. 4. Live with compassion and wisdom. When we realize we are not separate, how can we harm another? If the ocean does not see itself as separate from the waves, why should we see ourselves as separate from others? Letting go of ego naturally leads to deeper compassion. When we treat others with kindness, we align ourselves with the deep truth of interconnection. 5. Contemplate death, not as an end, but as a transition. Every day, reflect on death, not in a morbid way, but as a natural continuation of life. Tibetan monks meditate in graveyards to remind themselves that all things pass, but awareness remains. This makes life more precious, and each moment more alive. Zen Master Dogen said, if you wish to understand life, first understand death. By seeing death clearly, we learn how to live without fear. In practicing these things daily, we don't just think about birth and death, we begin to experience the truth beyond them. And in that realization, we find something timeless, something that has never been born and will never die. If you found this video insightful, please like, share, and subscribe to Living Wisdom and Dharma World for more teachings on the path to enlightenment, which also allows the system to recommend to more people to the discovery. May your practice and pursuit of truth bring you wisdom, happiness, and liberation.